this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I've got my white coat on, I've got my goggles on, and I've spiked my hair up in the air to look like a nutty scientist. Actually I haven't. But it is a bit that way, so you might think, what the hell's he up to now? Well, what he's up to now is a friend asked me to buy a new TDS meter and a new pH meter. They said, where do I get them from? And I said, they're quite cheap on eBay. And the lady in question said, what is eBay? So I thought, it's probably going to be easier if I just get them for her and she gives me the money, which was all agreed. So they've duly arrived. So these are straight out the box, literally, not even undone yet. And I have several experiments to do here, and some of it has got nothing to do with them being for somebody else, it's to do with me. So we get a nice case for the TDS meter, we don't get one for the pH meter. Never mind, the pH meter is packaged separately but inside. Right. Oh, come on. This has got all the hallmarks of going very wrong. All scientific experiments have the potential to go totally wrong. Gotcha! Come on! There's no point in having you if you weren't open. And I don't want to damage it because obviously this is for somebody else. Gotcha! Right, and we'll have the instructions for the pH meter because I'm going to calibrate it. And therein lies the little experiment. Okay, right. RO water, first and foremost. Now, first experiment is some RO water and a little bit of feed. Doesn't matter how much, it's totally irrelevant, but just some. I suppose that'll be about, I don't know, 120 to 150-ish. But that's just a guess. How much it is totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. But what we do need is for it to dissolve. Now, this may be a mistake having some wine here. With little glasses with water and chemicals in and a glass with wine in, I can see an error going on here somehow. So we'll get the wine right out of the way. Number one. You dissolved? Yep. So one good thing about that new MSU formula that I got, it's granular, but boy does it dissolve quickly, which is good. And when we get on to the next bit, we need everything spotlessly clean. Now, experiment number one. First of all, this is my TDS meter. I'm glad I'm not pouring that on my orchids. That says around 400, a bit less, probably about 39. Well, it says 399 at the moment, 398-ish. Right, now, new TDS meter, straight out of the box, yeah? First of all, we turn it on to find out if it actually works. It works. That's good. Now, I'm going to put that in with that and see what it says. Don't forget, this is brand new, straight out of the box. And new stuff ought to have a bit of a soak before it's used, really. Okay, right. We have a difference in the reading. Not much, given the strength of the solution. Right, so I've got nearly 400. And the new one says 436. Now, as a percentage, the difference is actually relatively small. Now, it is possible to calibrate the TDS meter, I believe. What's this? A man reading instructions? Never heard of such a thing. And they're in foreign. Oh, we do have English. Right, can we calibrate this? we have a little hole in the back, which if I can get some light on it, 'cause the light's pouring in here. Does that have a little, looks like it has a tiny little screw in there. But the question is, do I bother? Because the reading on the new one is going down quite dramatically. Now remember, that was brand new, that could have had some sort of coating on the little glass bulb in there. Right, I've now got a fraction under 400 on mine and 416 on the shiny new one. It might even go down a little more. As I said, you've got to watch new stuff. pH meters and TDS meters ought to have a bit of a soak before you start using them on a regular basis. That's settled now. So as a percentage error, it's not much. And it's not enough to worry about. You know, if I was setting up some feed for my orchids and I was aiming at about 150, 160 or 140 is close enough. It's you know, we're not working in the laboratory here. So I would say that the new TDS meter is close enough to not muck about calibrating. Bearing in mind that feed for me is quite a strong feed. So result of experiment number 1 is that my TDS meter is still holding its reading despite being years old. It's still close enough to a new one, which should probably be a little bit more accurate. 415, 416 compared with just under 400. Happy with that. So this shiny new TDS meter can go to its new owner, working and tested, because I doubt if the lady in question would be able to do it. Right, let's get that right out of the way. Now I've got my pH meter and shiny new pH meter. Now a pH meter that's been left dry for a long period of time does need to soak, right? So first of all, the water in there is not quite deep enough, and this is where we make a mess everywhere. Just need to get it to soak right up to the level it's supposed to be. There we go. Right, now those two are going to be left to soak for about half an hour, yeah? So I will break off, but we'll just put those to one side while we get on with the next bit. And this is where the faffing starts. These are the pH meter calibration powders that you can get. You can get a third one which is up around a pH of 9. If you were going to use the pH meter for readings between around 7 and 9, you would use that higher one, because these pH meters have a 2-point calibration and then the electronics inside do an average. Whereas pH meters working with orchids tend to want to be, you know, down 5.5 up to 7ish. So the 6.86 and the 4.01 are the two to use. And the meter calibrates using a control, and then it calibrates using a second control and puts the two together to get pretty accurate readings between those two. If you calibrate using those two and you then try and use your pH meter at pH 9, 10, 11, it's probably not going to be accurate, but we don't. Our orchid work is in this arena, so that's why those two have been chosen. Now these new ones that I bought didn't come with the calibration powders. I've had to get them separate, but while I was at it I got quite a few, because I haven't calibrated my pH meter since I got it, I don't think, which could mean it's a little bit out. They do go out. Right, instructions. Yes, I am reading the instructions. Right, where do we start then? That's how to use it, what it looks like. Calibration. Turn on pH meter. Yeah, we'll do that in a minute. Dissolve each buffer solution in 250 ml of distilled water. Well, RO water's as close as it gets. Now, I'm using a measuring jug that's for cooking. The 250 mark on here, yeah, the line is probably thick enough to constitute 10 ml, So it's not going to be 100% accurate with the amount of water I'm going to use, but it'll be close enough. Again, a 10 mil error in 250 mil of water is not a lot. Don't forget, if you're using quite a wide thing to measure liquid, don't forget to allow for the capillary action on the side of the glass container, which will take the reading from the outside slightly higher than the level of the water inside. So you need to go a fraction up to make sure it's on the line. That's a fraction too much. This needs to be as accurate as I can get it with the jug, which is not very good. That's good. Right. The next instruction is immerse the electrode into the pH 6.86. So obviously that's the one it wants first. Now when you're using funny little sachets like this, make sure you hold it over what it's going to go in, so that if there's any in the top of the sachet, it falls in the liquid and doesn't go outside. And that's empty. You need every bit of this. If you leave any in the corners, then it's not a valid solution. You've got to get the lot. Check for empty. Yeah, that's good. Okay, right. Solution number one. We'll get that going. I'm going to turn the camera off for a minute because from memory last time I did these solutions take quite a long time to dissolve. There's no point in you watching that. I'll be back when this is completely dissolved. Okay, those two have been soaking quite a while now, more than enough. My solution is nice and clear, no bits left in the bottom, otherwise it's not, as I say, you get a couple of lumps in the bottom that haven't dissolved, then it's not a valid solution, is it? It needs to be totally dissolved. We just got to be as accurate as we can. As I say, I'm not working in the laboratory here, but right, I'll just give that a quick shake. Otherwise we'll be diluting the solution with the water. Now we didn't turn this on, did we? Does it work? Yes, it does. So we have a reading of something random, I think that is. Right, back to the instructions. Right, immerse the electrode into the pH 6.86 solution under the temperature of 25 degrees. So this is all at room temperature, so it's below that anyway. Right, so we've got to do that, and then it says press the calibration button for 5 seconds and release. Display will start flashing 6.86. Wait until the display stops flashing. Right, so let's see what happens then. So immerse it, give it a good shake, make sure it's happy. Press the cal button, hold for 5 seconds. 3, 4, 5. And now it says 6.86, which is what one would expect, isn't it? So I presume that calibrated. I suppose we could try it again. Yeah, it came up with the word end, so obviously it was happy with the calibration at 6.86. Right. When I've used a meter, I never store it flat, preferably store it upright. So let me turn that off now. But I usually just put it on the lid so it's on a slope and the water slopes away from the electrics. Now experiment. What does mine say? Bear in mind it's in active use. Look how far out this is. See, in theory this should read 6.86, unless it's a long way out, in which case I've been getting duff readings. It is a long way out, a hell of a long way out. So I think Roger's pH meter might have to go in the bin. Mine says 8.3. Miles out. God, I've been using this as well. I wonder if it'll calibrate. Let's try doing the same thing. So press and hold for 5 seconds. It now says 6.86. Oh, it came up with 6.86 and then said error. Now I know from last time I did this, it expects the solution under the calibration to be somewhere near what it's supposed to be calibrating, and obviously my reading is so far out that it won't calibrate. It's thinking this is not a valid calibration solution. It's the only thing I can think of. So mine is probably broke, or so far off that it's not worth bothering with. So it flashes 6.86, which looks good, and then it comes up with error and refuses to calibrate. So mine is not a happy bunny. Right, I actually need some clean water now, don't I? I'm just going to rinse mine off and put that to one side. We'll come back to that in a minute. Right, so mine is declared a bit naff. Right, we'll put the new one back in to soak, give it a chance to just get the residual of that off, and I'm going to pour that to one side in case I need it again. Right, now I've got to clean this out thoroughly and dry it off and start again with RO water and get the second powder, which I've hidden away somewhere there, stirred in and dissolved. So I'll be back when I've done that. Right, another lot of 250 ml, this time with that one, and boy did that take an age to dissolve. Anyway, it's done now, and we go back to our shiny new pH meter and back to our instructions. So we did that, turn over, right, and it says immerse the electrode in the 4 point whatever it was, 01 solution, press cal button for 5 seconds, then press and release immediately a second time, reading will start flashing 4. Wait until the display stops flashing. Right, let's give that a go then. Right, immerse. Well, it's looking good at the moment. It says 405, 4.05, so it's already close. Right, then it says press and hold for 5 seconds. Now it's just done it, so the instructions aren't that clear. It just did it automatically. It was reading 4.05 and basically it switched to 4.01, which is the calibration figure, flashed and said end. In other words, we believe job done, and it now reads 4.01, which is what it should read. Right, so that one is now had 2 calibration points. The electronics in there will now apply effectively a range of values between those two that are pretty accurate. So that one's now done, and recalibration is required in the following conditions: lengthy periods of inactivity, well mine certainly doesn't get that, very frequent use, well, I don't know what very frequent is, 10 times a day, twice a week, that's a silly expression. The testing accuracy requirement is very high, well mine isn't. Okay, so there are times when it could do with recalibrating. Low battery, when display value is fuzzy or unknown or unshown, the battery should be replaced. That's stating the bleeding obvious, isn't it? If the display says error, right, if you get an error, if you calibrated the meter in the air or in the wrong calibration solution, there will be error flashing on the screen. the meter will return to the last step operation. If necessary, recalibrate the meter. Well, that's what mine's doing. So it thinks the calibration fluid is wrong. But let's see what it now thinks of this 4.01. See if it's close or still miles out. See, that says 4.1. So that's actually quite close down at that range. 4.09. Let's try calibrating it again, see what happens. Yeah, still come up with error. I do formally declare my pH meter defunct. I've had that quite a while since the last hassle I had with a different type. It's never been calibrated since. It's obviously been reading wrong for some considerable time. So I'm going to condemn that, and the fact that these two straight out of the box have been okay, I shall just reorder another pH meter the same as the one I've just bought. Yeah, so I'll get a replacement for mine. And if you ever throw away one of these little gadgets, take the batteries out before you bin it, because the batteries are expensive. There's nothing wrong with the batteries in there, because I haven't got a fuzzy reading or unshown. It's unshown now because I just turned it off. So I think we will scrap my pH meter, and let me see, when's our meeting? Our meeting is the end of the month, the 29th, when I've got to have this to hand over to my friend. So in theory I could just keep the ones I've opened. No, I can't. I need to calibrate this for the lady. I don't think she'll be very good at doing that sort of thing herself somehow. So just as a matter of interest, where's some clean water? Oh, that was in clean water. Let's go back to the feed. Now that's at double the strength I would normally use. And what does it think the pH is? Oh my goodness me. Oh my goodness me. I've been using my pH meter and adjusting my pH downwards on the grounds it was reading high. So I've been adjusting it down when I didn't need to. That says 5.5. Now okay, that's a feed at 400. Yeah? So a little bit of science there. If the feed was at 200, half the strength, the pH would be halfway between 5.5 and 7, my pure RO water, which is whatever. 5.5 and 7 is 6.2ish, yeah, or 6.3, something like that, which for a feed of 200, that would be a valid pH range to use on the orchids. But my meter would have said it was high, so I'd have adjusted it down. And I've probably been using water that's far too acidic. I don't know for how long. I mean, how long has this thing been wrong? It would have probably gradually gone wrong, but we won't be doing it anymore. Right, so that's Lynn's new pH and TDS meter. I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to hand them over and she's going to say, how do I use them? Oh, more hassles. Now, the other thing I will mention with this type, maintenance. Always replace protective cap after using digital meter to keep the electrode from drying out due to prolonged exposure to air, which leads to a slow or slightly unstable reading. If this happens, just re-soak. Yeah, if the electrode has been totally dried out for any length of time, immerse in distilled water for a while. So, right, and then it says, after I've done all this calibration, rinse and dry the electrode with distilled water as before. Place the meter back in the buffer solution to test calibration. Oh, we didn't do that, did we? All right, let's do that then. Right, so we go back into this one. This is the high level one, which is in a wider thing, so it's a bit shallow now. What's it supposed to be? I've forgotten. It says 6.85. I think it was supposed to be 6.86 something, wasn't it? It says if it's out, calibrate again. So that says 6.85. Where's my clean water? That's my feed. Get that out of the way. It's my cleanish water. Gradually becoming more polluted as I keep doing this. And what's it say in there? It says .98. I think it's worth doing it again. You know, what harm can it do? Right, so let's repeat the process. Can do no harm, can it? Right, so I'm going to have to tip that up a bit now, get some depth. So, immerse, jiggle. It's just done an auto shut off, that's good to know, that works. Now, what we're aiming at here is 6.86. The reading says 6.86. It's spot on. It's not worth recalibrating, is it? It's just not worth it. You know, once you get to that second decimal place, you're wasting your time, really. It's just too small an amount to worry about. And in there it's supposed to read 4.01 and it's reading 4.0. Give it a chance. It's actually reading 3.96. 97. But it should be 4.0. It now says 3.99. It's close enough. Close enough. So I'm happy that doesn't need recalibrating. It's more than close enough. Right, we'll give it a rinse. And storage for this, it says, after use, rinse in clean water, shake dry, and replace cap. No storing it in buffer solutions, no storing liquid in the cap, no messing. This is why I chose this one in the first place, because it doesn't need any looking after. If it has a prolonged period and does go totally dry, when you use it, the reading will be erratic and you'll have to keep sloshing it around for a while until it settles down. Yeah? But under normal circumstances, mine doesn't do that because it gets used often enough not to worry about. I do occasionally get that problem if I've done a couple of flushes. So the last time I actually used it, because I wouldn't use it for a flush, it could have dried out. But, you know, if in doubt, just soak it in some RO water or distilled water or anything pure, not tap water. And just leave it to soak for half an hour or so. And then you'll find your reading will be nice and stable. Right, so that's Lynn's stuff done. I have to pack all that away. And I need a new pH meter. Oh goody. More expense. That box set, the two, with the case, but without the powders, was $9.99 on eBay for the pair. It's just pennies, isn't it? It's just pennies to actually know the strength of your feed and what your pH is. Plenty close enough for orchids. You don't need to spend 50 or 60 quid on a pH meter, not for orchids. But you do need to keep your eye on the one that you've got. So preempting calibrations and things, when I had to order these separately, I ordered them, well, I won't say in bulk, but I ordered 4 of each. And I'm going to keep my eye on that. Well, when I get my new one, I'm going to keep my eye on it. And every so often, I'm going to try the calibration again and see if it's gone out. Yeah? So if I sort of try it in a month's time and it's still accurate, then I'll try it in a couple of months' time. The cost of those powders, I think 4 of each, was about 5 quid. So we will now dispose of this rather toxic stuff, especially that stuff that says 4.01, and have a clean up. So calibrating the meters. First of all, TDS meter was accurate out of the box, verified by a second meter, with some feed. You have to just sort of apply the logic here. I didn't calibrate that accurately. I didn't do a calibration in a specifically known level of feed. That is incredibly difficult to do, one. And two, if you've got 2 meters that read roughly the same, what are the chances of them not only both being wrong, but both being wrong by the same amount? Yeah? Those two are close enough together for their readings, as far as I'm concerned, to be plenty accurate enough for orchids. And the pH meter is a different story. Okay, a little bit of fun. Now, off with the white coat, and on with some, I was just going to say on with some tea. My mind and my tummy says it's tea time. The clock actually says it's 3:30. Ages to wait. I haven't even got anything for a snack at the moment. Okay, so a little bit of fun in the kitchen, something a bit different. And as I say, it is a bit sciencey, calibrating a pH meter. Well, it depends on the sort you get. Some of them are single point calibrations, but when you get a dual point one, you do need to do both to set the electronics right. And then I would suggest check it periodically if mine was anything to go by. That's quite a long way out. Quite a long way out. Yeah, worrying. Anyway, that's that done, and I'll get the new ones to Lynn, and I'll order a new one for me. Good stuff. See you next time.